Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Reese, Managing Partner at Leader Onboarding. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. It's part of an occasional series about onboarding. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of this conversation. Please share your questions throughout using the Q&A button whenever it's convenient for you. We'll be talking today about the unexpected role that feedback plays in new physician effectiveness, particularly the impact on physician leaders. We'll be discussing how to deal with the feedback gap, the scientific foundation for the conversation we're having, the relationship between feedback and performance, and some risks that are caused by the feedback gap. I'm joined today by valued colleague Stephanie Henderson, who's our assessment practice leader. As you can see, we've been immersed in the world of onboarding for a while, and we're committed to supporting high-impact physician transitions. It may feel like a little bit of a leap to link feedback to new physician performance, so we thank you in advance for bearing with us as we make the connection. Feedback impacts all aspects of performance, especially the quality of care delivered to patients, their satisfaction with that care and their other patient experiences. Feedback is essential for capability development among physicians, and it is also highly impactful on new team morale. The hidden feedback gap makes the physician's risky job riskier. Blockages and distortions in communications are especially problematic when physicians start new roles. It undermines patient care and can alienate teams. Physicians have risky jobs, and they deserve support as they transition into new roles and their new environments. We at Leader Onboarding enjoy working with physicians because they are lifelong learners, continuously evolving new knowledge and practices, and they hold themselves to a high standard of competency and capability. But if they're missing important information, then we're blocking their growth and performance and their success in new roles. We'd like to take a minute to hear from you in a poll. Which of these statements correspond to your perceptions and experiences? And please check all that apply. Patients and families may feel intimidated by the status that physicians hold and may not provide feedback. There could be power imbalances between different types of providers, everything from physicians to nurses to medical assistants. Clinical feedback may be more forthcoming than interpersonal feedback. So let's take about 60 seconds to run the poll. What you've told us in the poll is that the status we afford physicians can have a chilling effect on feedback from patients and families, that more senior physicians may inadvertently suppress feedback from younger physicians, and that feedback may tend to be clinical rather than interpersonal or focused on leadership. You did a really good job in the poll of articulating some of the major factors that we found to be contributors to the feedback gap. New physicians lack feedback for a number of reasons, and that gap creates complex and daunting issues for them. The good news is that there are things we can do about that feedback gap. Our early research confirms that there's a slender body of scientific evidence that the feedback gap is real and that it's problematic. One of our clients addresses that gap through its governance model. Physicians occupy top leadership roles, and they emphasize direct and frequent feedback for the physicians in their employ. We are expanding on a distressingly sparse body of research about the impact of the feedback gap specifically on physician transitions. And we're focusing on this so we can identify the most powerful solutions, hopefully with your help, and we'll talk more about that later. My colleague Stephanie Henderson will expand on the crucial role that feedback plays in these transitions. Stephanie?
Thank you, Linda. New physician leaders need to be successful quickly. ROI is critically important and includes offsetting recruiting costs, ramping up quickly, and improving financial performance. Physician transitions put outcomes at risk. Safety, patient satisfaction, and more can be compromised. Mitigating these risks requires that physicians seek feedback, and take action. Risk is increased by the multiple paradoxes faced by new physician leaders. We often hire physicians as change agents, and there is so much to change. If change is attacked too aggressively, it causes problems. New physicians value clinical competence, and clinical competence is a price of admission skill for physicians, and they understandably feel the need to prove themselves. At the same time, they must seek advice and knowledge to make the right decision. Knowing when and how to reach out is a precious balance, and yet can be confounding. We work hard to make the right hire. We need to work much harder to make the transition work. Health systems can mitigate new physician risk by delivering early feedback. It gives new physicians the foundation to start robust conversations and sets a pattern for relationship development and ongoing feedback exchange. It uncovers critical areas of misalignment around expectations for the physician and their role, as well as provides them the chance to course correct, leading to better outcomes. With all the information that can be gained from feedback, why isn't it readily available to new physicians? A drive towards clinical performance and outcomes causes physicians to forget how to ask, how are they doing? At the same time, those same physicians want to demonstrate their capability. On the other side of the equation, new colleagues want to be liked by the new person and may choose to avoid uncomfortable topics. And there are some who wanted someone else to be in that role and protest by withholding information. The biggest problem for new physicians is they don't know what they don't know, and others don't know what they need to supply. Let's take a minute and learn what you are already doing to help your new physician leaders get the feedback they need. In this poll, I'd like you to select all that apply. Things like, do you conduct team integrations, provide navigation partners, have check-ins with dyad partners and hiring managers? And if there's something not listed, please share it in the Q&A. So it looks like folks are primarily scheduling check-ins with their dyad partners and hiring managers and relying on clinical reviews. Those formal types of feedback leave a number of voices unheard. One approach we haven't yet discussed is a structured way of providing feedback from multiple viewpoints early in the new physician leader's role. Level set physician leaders is a different kind of multi-rater tool that is proven to reduce the time to performance by more than 25%, increase alignment between new physicians and the people who have expectations, result in high quality, high impact decisions, and engage team members to result in freely exchanged information. With level set physician leader, you can harness the power of the feedback process. New physician leaders experience a window of judgment. The window of judgment is that period when leaders are considered new and are given the grace to course correct. And that window is pretty unforgiving. Level set gives new physicians the information they needed to surface and fix those hidden problems when they need it. Level set facilitators can provide expert feedback delivery and problem solving. We hope to see you in April for our April Level Set Physician Leaders Qualification Workshop. We believe in building internal onboarding expertise and capacity. So the registration for our April workshop is open now, with the link to register in the chat window. Next week, you will receive a link to the recording of this live event and a copy of the article, Physicians and Feedback, Why They Just Don't Get or Give It. Now I want to turn it back over to Linda, who will talk more about the research project we shared earlier.
Thank you, Stephanie. In phase 2 of our applied research project, which is called Best Practices in Physician Onboarding and Feedback, we are hoping you can join us in identifying bright spots or best practices in your physician onboarding, exploring why new physicians may risk feedback deprivation, articulating the consequences of those gaps, And as a thank you, we'd be sharing the report findings with you. You'll also receive a best practice resource base that will support you in high impact physician onboarding and closing any feedback gaps that may exist. To apply to participate in our research project, please send an email to research@leaderonboarding.com. And thank you for your consideration. I'd like to take a minute to respond to the Q&A questions that you offered and to thank you for some really good questions. So the first question is, how do you see it play out in performance when a new hire physician doesn't get the feedback they need? We see it as having a bunch of different potential impacts. The first is that they can be seen as sort of not getting the culture, or even possibly not being the right fit for the role. They could also have a preference for tools and practices that are not supported by the scientific evidence, and that could harm their reputation with their new colleagues. They also may not be seen as collegial or invested in teamwork if they're not receiving or responding to feedback, and their clinical care can suffer. If it continues, they could even become disruptive or be seen as problematic. I'd like to throw the second question to Stephanie. And Stephanie, our audience member, asked, what are some of the best practices you see in physician onboarding?
Thanks, Linda. Well, you all shared some of your best practices with us. So let us share with you one of the things that we've seen that works really well. What we've seen is when the administrative dyad becomes the point of contact for, or even the driver of physician onboarding. When they prepare for the arrival of new hires, it creates a pattern of open and respectful communication. Becoming qualified to deliver level set helps increase that ability to give and receive feedback. And that dyad partner also helps to engage with the hiring manager in order to facilitate the understanding of the unique needs of each new hire. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you. If you're interested in participating in the research or are further interested in level set physician leader qualification,